We're all surrounded by this invisible web of technology, right? But some of it is doing way, way more than you probably think. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a system that tracks you basically everywhere, even deep inside buildings where GPS couldn't dream of reaching. Let's dive in.
I mean, think about it for a second. You're in some massive, sprawling mall, no GPS signal to be found, yet somehow your map app knows you're standing right in front of the pretzel stand. How does it do that? It's something we all just take for granted, but the tech behind it is one of the biggest and most misunderstood systems on the entire planet. Well, the answer is something called a Wi-Fi positioning system, or WPS for short. It's this really clever piece of tech that basically turns that whole ocean of Wi-Fi signals around us into a super accurate map. It's the secret sauce that makes your location services work so well indoors, and how it works is both fascinating and, yeah, a little unsettling. So how in the world do you turn invisible radio waves into an actual map? Well, the main idea here is to treat every single Wi-Fi router out there as a unique landmark. And it's these digital landmarks that are building the world's most detailed, invisible map, one signal at a time.
Okay, so this all happens in the blink of an eye, constantly. First, your phone is always listening, scanning for every Wi-Fi network it can hear. It doesn't even need to connect, just listen. Second, it grabs each router's unique address, that's called a BSSID, and notes how strong the signal is. Third, it bundles all that info into a unique fingerprint and sends it off to a huge server run by Apple or Google. And finally, that server just looks at its giant map, finds a matching fingerprint, and boom, it tells your phone exactly where you are. This little four-step dance is happening all the time, right in your pocket. So why is this system everywhere? Well, not only does it solve that huge indoor location problem where GPS just gives up, but it's also incredibly power efficient. I mean, using up to 90% less battery than pinging satellites all day, that's a massive deal for our phones. It's really no surprise that all the big players, Apple, Google, you name it, have built their entire location services on top of this tech. We've seen how useful WPS is. It's great. But all that convenience comes from data collection on a scale that is, honestly, it's hard to wrap your head around. We're not talking about thousands of data points here, or even millions. We are talking billions. Just look at this number, over 2 billion. That's according to new research in 2024 from the University of Maryland. That's how many individual Wi-Fi routers have been mapped and cataloged around the world. Your router at home, the one at your favorite coffee shop, odds are they're just a couple of dots on this gigantic invisible map. So how on earth did a map of 2 billion locations get built? Well, the simple answer is you did it, and I did. We all did. Every time your phone has both GPS and Wi-Fi on, it's quietly reporting the precise location of all the Wi-Fi networks it sees to Apple or Google. With over 4.5 billion Apple and Android devices out there all contributing, this map basically builds itself. And here's the part that gets me. Your own home router was probably put on this map by some stranger's phone as they drove by your house, all without you ever knowing it happened. Now, not all these systems are the same, and the difference between the two biggest players here is, well, it's critical. Google, for its part, locks its system down. You need a key to get in, and it only tells you your specific location. Apple, on the other hand, they took a very different path. Their system is wide open, no authentication needed. And get this, when you ask it for the location of just one router, it hands you back the locations of up to 400 of its neighbors. That one design choice has massive, massive security implications. Apple's open door policy basically means anyone, anywhere, can start mapping the world. The researchers at the University of Maryland showed just how easy it is. They were able to suck down millions of Wi-Fi locations in just a few days. By asking for one router and getting 400 back, they could just keep pulling that thread, creating the spiderweb effect that lets you map entire cities or even clone huge parts of Apple's database, all from a laptop. And look, this isn't just some theoretical problem for researchers to poke at. This abstract data has very real and sometimes very dangerous consequences. It can turn a simple convenience feature into a tool with life or death stakes. This is where it gets incredibly serious. Using these public Wi-Fi databases, researchers were able to track military-grade communications gear being used in the conflict in Ukraine. A consumer technology suddenly becomes a powerful intelligence-gathering tool that can be used from anywhere on the planet. To be specific, they found they could identify and track the Wi-Fi signals coming from Starlink satellite internet terminals. These things are absolutely vital for both military and humanitarian operations over there. By mapping where these terminals are, an adversary could potentially figure out troop movements or where aid workers are located, putting them in incredible danger. And the scariest part? This tracking is totally silent. The users have absolutely no idea their location is being monitored. This quote from the research paper it really says it all, doesn't it? We have collectively built one of the most detailed maps of ourselves in all of human history, and we did it almost completely by accident without any real public debate or explicit permission. And this brings us to what researchers call the bystander privacy problem. You don't even need to own a smartphone to be on this map. Your home Wi-Fi router gets cataloged just because it exists. That means its physical location becomes public information, queryable by pretty much anyone. You can see how this is especially dangerous for sensitive places, like domestic violence shelters or safe houses, whose locations could be exposed just because they have a Wi-Fi signal. Okay, I know that was a lot to take in. The scale of this is huge, and the risks are very real. But, and this is a big but, the story doesn't end there. The good news is there are actual concrete steps that we can all take to claw back some of our location privacy. So let's talk solutions. First things first, the responsibility really starts with the big tech companies. Apple and Google, they need to secure these systems. That means adding real authentication to their APIs, putting a stop to that practice of returning hundreds of nearby locations at once, and just being more transparent about how all this data is collected and used. Router manufacturers also have a huge role to play here. And the cool thing is, after this research came out, some companies like SpaceX and GLINet have already started making changes. They're adding features like MAC address randomization, which makes a router harder to track over time, and they're building simple privacy controls right into their settings. All right, now for the most important part. What can you do? Right now, there's one incredibly simple thing that makes a massive difference. If you add _nomap, that's _nomap, to the end of your Wi-Fi network's name, you are sending a direct signal to companies like Google, telling them to remove your router from their location database. It is a simple, effective way to opt out that anybody can do in about 30 seconds. And that brings us to the final question, really. The ability to find our way around a huge airport or get a ride instantly, it's all incredibly convenient. But we now know that convenience is built on this hidden foundation of global crowdsourced data collection. And it really forces us to ask, in this hyper-connected world we've built, what's the real price we're paying for all this convenience?